as Catholics in specific, Christians in general, but Catholics in specific, we have a very distinct call as to how we interact in the world. And we also have the benefit of a church that's been doing this for 2,000 years, quite literally, that's been involved in a variety of states and governments at different levels. We've been persecuted publicly, and we've also been, the official state religion of empires. So we have a lot of thought and theology and philosophy behind our approach to how to apply the principles of the gospel, the principles of the teachings of Jesus Christ and the church in our political life. And Dom, kind of going to you to start. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I know you're the Pope Benedict guy, and I know that Ratzinger has a lot of thoughts on this. And it might be nuanced, and without getting too into the weeds and bringing up citations, I wanted to just open up that discussion. What do you think is the framework that most Catholics should have for engaging politics in general, but maybe in America in specific?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not going to be giving anything super profound here, but this is a massive topic. I mean, I just want to recommend a book for people to read. It's definitely worth your time. It's called Church, Ecumenism, and Politics by Joseph Ratzinger. And it's a bit of a hodgepodge of different topics, but they have a unity, right? Which is the relationship between the church and the state, and how Christian unity is actually important for bearing witness to the principles by which the state should govern people, right? And so anyway, it's just a really good book. But long story short, I think when it comes to a Catholic's understanding of the world and of politics, right, I think it's important to avoid two pitfalls and then to apply principles. So the first pitfall would be to think that as long as the state tolerates my private version of believing, right, then I'm okay with the status quo. Nothing's wrong. I got my religious, private life. That would be, in a certain sense, to corroborate with liberalism, right, with the privatization of religion, which means that the state would become confessional, but it wouldn't be confessing the principles of human dignity and that we receive through Christ and through God's history with man, but to be professing the principles of a new form of paganism, right, which is a kind of radical individualism that where rights begin to defend merely personal autonomy and not the common good and genuine freedom, which leads to things like abortion, the breakdown of gender and the family. Anyway, so we don't want to privatize our faith and our religion. That would be one pitfall, I think, that's important to avoid. The second pitfall is to actually bring the faith down to a merely political level, right? The faith is not political, although it influences politics, and it is something public, right? It's something that should be proclaimed in the public square. These are values that should inform public society and policy. But again, there has to be a proper distinction, or else what we end up doing is making the faith into merely a confession, a political tool. But if you look at the origins of the gospel, right, Christ says, my kingdom is not of this world, although it is in this world, right? And what does it look like? It doesn't look like the power of Caesar, but rather the power of love, which transforms the cross, which is the power of Caesar, into the power of the God-man for human dignity. So I think the church has to be a kind of conscience, right? A proclamation. This is the apostolic mission to the polis, to its rulers in the temporal power, so that it might form their conscience in a public way, but without degrading itself and becoming merely political. So I think those are the two pitfalls. And the way we do that, I think the church has given us all this Catholic social teaching, all these principles based on ethical ways of living in the polis, right? And so a Catholic can get involved, not as not as someone trying to make politics into something religious, but to allow religion, public religion, to inform political policy. And so that's when all these principles, right, of Catholic social teaching become super relevant and should speak to people's consciences and to legislators. So, I mean, that's a very broad brush, right? These are broad principles, and you have to apply them in very concrete and specific ways. But I think we have to avoid those two pitfalls and understand the proper relationship between church and state. So that's my initial thoughts on that.